Welcome. It's good to see you today. We are live from Oslo, Seattle, and the UK. So we have a very exciting hour ahead, speaking a bit about the evolution and revolution in a way about printing, or what I used to say, or usually say, production on demand. Because printing is a thing of the past. Everyone thinks printing is dying, but when you say production and production on demand, everyone gets it, right? But before we jump into the chat here, I'd love for everyone to quickly introduce themselves. Let's start with Rick.
Hey, good day, everybody. I'm Rick Bellamy. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Henrik. We've got over 30 years of experience leading companies and technology teams, leading multiple transactions, all of that with a common theme of content-rich graphic arts, everything from startups to Fortune 100s. Most recently, I led RPI from a struggling $19 million family business to $130 million international business with 5 owned print locations and 28 strategic outsource partners. So today I am managing partner and leader of Inflecton. Inflecton helps business leaders to build sustainable growth, grow sustainable practices in their operations, all in a way to drive profits through engaging their employees. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. And you're in the city of Starbucks, right?
I am in the city of Seattle, yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We like Starbucks. And Bruce, please.
Also in Seattle, so it's good to be here with all of you. So Bruce Watermann, I'm the founder and executive consultant at PrintReady Network. My background is I ran professional photo labs in Seattle during the 80s and into the early 90s. During the analog to digital transformation time. And during that time, I met Bill Gates, who was taking Microsoft public, and we were doing visuals for them as they were going to shareholders. And out of that relationship, he hired me as the director of global imaging operations for Corbis. So I ran the scanning operations during that time when they were building the Corbis image library. Did that through till the end of 2000s, and I started working with some Web 1.0 and Web 2.0 companies. During that time, met Eileen Gittens, who was the founder of Blurb and became one of the founding managers there, and took that to market until Rick Bellamy bought my company in 2018. And then I actually ran the outsource network for Rick that he mentioned, the 28 outsource partners during that time. In the last couple of years, I've been doing consulting on my own with PrintReady Network.
And just for the audience here, Blurb, or is it a company, or what was Blurb?
So Blurb.com was really the transformational company for 4-color print-on-demand book printing. Before Blurb started, you could do a 1-color book with Lulu or a company like that, but there was really no way to do a 4-color book bigger than 100 pages. We launched with being able to do 400 pages right out of the gate, and it changed the entire marketplace of what people thought they could do as far as 4-color printing and book publishing.
I'll tell you a secret also, which is not going to be a secret any longer, but we actually looked a lot at Blurb. When I founded Gelato and we started to grow this company. I think in many ways you were very interesting innovators of how to bring creative ideas over to the production on demand or the print industry. So thank you both. Simon, please, from the UK.
So looks like I'm the youngest of the group.
Congratulations.
You know, hopefully, anyway. So I've been in print for about 10 years. I'm the CEO of a company in the UK called ESP Colour. We have 4 different production hubs, some in the analog litho, others in print on demand, others in large format, and another one in labels. And my background before 2015 was not in print at all. It was trade in energy and working for large manufacturers like Honda, essentially. And what I feel that I do bring to the print industry, because this doesn't happen very often, is someone that has worked with some of the greatest companies in the world and can bring that experience into print, essentially. ESP, when I first started in 2015, was just the litho company. We have doubled in size, and that growth has all come from print on demand. We didn't have print on demand until 2017.
We have some of what I consider to be most pragmatic and knowledgeable people then on this chat and on this podcast. So one thing, and I'll go back and I'll tell a story, personal story from my own life. So my background was from telecommunication, and I ran a company in Norway named Tele2. It's about a $400 million at the time company, and it grew too big and too bureaucratic. So I resigned, and I actually literally did not know what to do. So of course my mother got concerned, and she began to cry when I said I'd resigned from this beautiful big CEO job. And then she started to cry a second time, which was when I called her and said, now I know what to do. I'm going into printing. And so the notion, not only in the mind of my mother, but generally out in the public, I think is that printing is dying. However, when you break it down and you just look at the trends from consumers to sustainability to moving from analog to digital, from analog to personal, I don't think it's ever been a more exciting time to be in the print industry or the production on demand industry. And I'd like to just get your thoughts and perspectives a bit on, what has changed in the industry as we have been able to give access to more and more production capabilities and products that are produced on demand to the whole global consumer industry. So I'd like, if we start off with you, Rick, what is it that you observe moving from macro to micro, from analog to personal, and how has that impacted this industry?
Well, I like the way you put it, and I often call it the golden age of print. And yes, the perception is that print is dying. However, if you look around you, it's in every aspect of your life. It's in your homes, it's on the streets, it's in subways, it's in your cars, it's in every aspect of your life. It has shifted, though. There is a great shift that's going on, and that is from analog long run into that short run, and now into micro orders. Like everything, things have changed. So that shift is driving great promise and great opportunities for those that are making that shift into being able to handle e-commerce and micro orders. Those that are hanging on to the old litho long run capabilities are not able to. It's happening through every print segment. It's not an easy transition. It requires a shift in mindset for people, but it is a great opportunity.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but before Bruce and Simon, also interesting, why do you think certain printers or production hubs have moved into this new era while others have not? Do you have some thoughts on what made some people more concerned and stigmatized versus others more dynamic and progressive?
Yeah, well, I can share a personal story about that. Quite frankly, I'm based in my background's in technology, so I've always embraced it. However, many people that I've worked for, when you think about the investment required in driving technology, and first and foremost driving a change in culture, it's a significant transition for a business. And when you look at the demographics, Simon, as he pointed out, is the youngest person on the call. When you look at the demographics of most of the owners of these production facilities, they're reaching an older age where they're looking around and saying, okay, do I want to make a big investment in my company and completely shift it and take that risk? The answer for many is no. The ones that do take that risk are being rewarded in a big way.
Yeah. No, I see that the demographics, the Gen Zs, the millennials, not only do they impact the consumption, but also the way these print hubs and production hubs are managed. So Blurb, as I told you, we looked a lot at Blurb. You were very innovative. So when you think about this transition, Bruce, from your perspective, what is it that has driven your excitement and what drove you into this? I mean, if you would have kept going with Bill Gates, it could have also been a nice run, right? But what kept you interested and engaged in this evolution and the print industry?
Sure. Actually, it's a good question. One thing I learned from working with Bill and Corvus was that the more things go digital, the more value there is in physical products, right? And I believe that really strongly, even more strongly today. So my background is in photography and really art in a lot of ways. So I really wanted to stay in that physical world. And I think when you're seeing with digital natives now, they relate to that very well. They see value in physical products. And but also, it's like we were talking about sort of companies making the transition. And I think this is where, and Simon can definitely pick up on this as well. It's like this transition has opened up the marketplace to new ideas and new people to get into this market. Now, during the early 2000s, I was acting as VP of operations for my publisher. Well, my publisher was the producer of the Apple iPhoto books when Apple first came out with those products. And it was like revolutionary at the time in 2022 when they came out with those things. Well, a lot of the companies that were doing printing back then, they could take 1,000 books and put them on a pallet and send them off, but they couldn't take 1,000 books, put them in 1,000 packages and deliver it to 1,000 addresses, right? That was a new thing that really was happening on the print on demand marketplace. So that logistical part of the business was one thing that Blurb caught on to very early, of understanding that. And the advantage we had was companies like RPI were very much interested in going on that journey with us. So we had to basically sell this idea of this is going to be the future. Print on demand is going to be the future. And yeah, maybe the margins don't seem like what they need to be right now, but they will get there. And I think we saw the future in that. And so I couldn't be more excited. I agree with Rick. I mean, printing it's really just a very cool thing. And I think you're seeing people that are younger understanding that and relating to that.
Well, it's interesting also, I think, because when we started to look at Blurb, you said 1,000 products to 1,000 consumers, but it's also in like Blurb, 10 countries, 20 countries, 30 countries. So
yes,
you also have this like creativity does not have any borders. You're not confined with your creativity to the States or to France, right? So we found a lot of inspiration from the way that Blurb had gone global and has allowed creativity and photographers to reach a global audience. So can you speak a bit about your creativity that you've seen from Microsoft and Bill Gates and into this industry and this global trend that we're now seeing?
Sure. That's another good question. So from the very beginning at Blurb, we didn't want to be an American company, quote unquote. We wanted to be a publishing company. And we felt like it was really important that we would diversify where our business was at. So within a couple of years, we were doing more than half of our business outside the US. So the great thing that helped that happen was going to the equipment manufacturers and finding out who are the real players in these different marketplaces. And I'm sure you're very familiar with that as well, Henrik. I mean, it's like there are people that can buy equipment and have the right equipment, but they don't have the right mindset of understanding how to basically take this marketplace forward. So we found kindred spirits, so to speak, that understood, what we were trying to do, bought into that idea. And I think that's a lot. And what I learned from working with Bill, I think, was that go in and have a lot of confidence in yourself as well. Have confidence in your ideas and sell those things. And a lot of times we always, feel like act like you're bigger than what you really are. Right. But also get people to buy into that, what the future vision is going to be, so they get excited about it. Right. And not only that gets them motivated, it also allows us to get better pricing, better opportunities, right? Of saying we're partners in this. You know, we can't do it alone. We didn't, like Gelato, we didn't own any printers. We didn't own any capital equipment at all. And my board loved that, by the way, because they didn't have to spend any money on capital equipment. So yeah, we had to basically sell this as an idea and show them what the future was going to look like.
I love the way you say Bill. Can we just assume that's Bill Gates, or?
Yes, it's
Like,
okay. Sorry.
yeah, we say Mr. Gates, but you obviously know him. So one thing that is interesting also with this creativity and being boundaryless is that with this geo expansion, with the ability of sharing creativity per se, you have to break that volume down into micro orders, and thus the digital print industry has its catapult, right? And Simon, you've been part of this evolution and revolution, right? You've been seeing how it's impacted and grown the industry. So from your perspective, when did you realize that this creator economy, the consumer demand, is going to catapult your business and move from macro to micro orders?
So the actual first realization that I had was actually the shift in change in commercial orders. Going from just shorter runs to shorter runs. You know, bearing in mind, I was in the industry just over 2 years when I started setting up our digital factory. We didn't have a digital factory. We had 2 Canon printers, sorry, 2 Kodak printers in a room that was probably like 5 by 7 meters. That was what we called digital. You know, it basically might have just been a little photocopier printing out you know, SRA3 sheets. So it wasn't actually for me the realization of the creator economy industry. It was the fact that the litho industry, the business that I just joined and came into, was the orders and the make readies were just getting more and more and more. And it doesn't really take a rocket scientist when you have the data in front of you to look back over years and go, well, this has been happening actually for quite a long period of time. Bearing in mind, I just joined the industry, so I had no knowledge if this had been happening or not been happening. So, but it didn't take me long to figure that out with some analysis. And then we had an opportunity to enter a big gifting company. And in 2017, we won that contract. I priced it all up myself. I did pretty much most of it myself in terms of figuring out what machinery we would need, et cetera, et cetera. So we won that in May of 2017. And then I went on holiday and I was waiting for the contract to be signed, et cetera. And they didn't sign the contract until it was about July. Bearing in mind, we were meant to go live before peak, so in 2017. So now I'm at July. And I'm sat in Padstow in the UK, which is a lovely part of the UK, trying to have a holiday, and they signed the contract. So then literally I go into find warehouse mode. So between when I came back from holiday, which is like mid-July, and near the end of September, I had found a 20,000-foot warehouse. I've kitted it out with machinery, PUR binders, HP printers, moved the Kodaks, 3-knife trimmers, ODM casing machines, and recruited and trained the people. Bearing in mind, we didn't have a clue how to run this machinery. I mean, I didn't, nor did anyone. And done all the integration. And we were live, on the 29th of September. And we started off doing in September 4,000 or 5,000 orders a day, just literally from a standing start. So yeah, to answer your question, it was the litho industry reduction that made me realize that this is not something that you can continue with. The status quo was not acceptable anymore. And then I had the opportunity for the gifting company, and then we've just pushed on ever since. But in terms of what makes the difference, because there are probably about 4,000 printers in the UK, give or take. And you can count on probably 2 hands the ones that have kind of taking this and run with it. And Henrik, you probably know every single one of them, and probably deal with them. And I think it does come down to, like, it is an age thing without question. And everything that Rick said is definitely true in terms of, you know, if they're close to retirement, why do they want to invest millions of pounds into machinery when that can go into their pension pot, in summary? But I obsess over it. Like, I obsess on how we can produce one book, one mug, one canvas, how I can remove minimums from and variability. I obsess about it, like, constantly, and it's like become a little addiction. So I think you kind of need a lot of factors, but I would say those are the two that work for me.
Well, it's interesting, you know, if anyone is thinking about starting a company, they should call you, because it's a lot of hard work.
Yes.
And the summer vacation is not always playing out the way you thought it would. But one thing you said here is very interesting. You said one book, one mug, one canvas, right? So when I started this company, we decided to move into, we were searching for the cheapest possible office space. And actually what we found was it's on top of the print partner we decided to go with in Oslo. So for the first 3-4 years, we're actually sitting next to what at the time was an HP Indigo machine. And so when I traveled around in Europe, and remember, this is like around 2008, 9, 10. When I went into a print facility, I typically saw 1-2 HP Indigos, right? And they typically produced on paper. Could be books or cards, posters, and so forth. Now, and I'd like to, you know, get a bit of your sense of the complications, but also opportunities with this technology transition. Because today, when I come to a state-of-the-art, you know, progressive digital production hub, I see Ricoh, I see Landa, I see HP Indigos, I see Fuji Xerox, Canon, Cornit. And so all of a sudden, I've seen this proliferation of machines linked to some of the most progressive printers. And out the other end comes also a proliferation of products. So these are, of course, you know, insanely exciting shifts, because all of a sudden we can support the creator economy with the products that creators across the planet are selling to consumers across the planet. But of course, it also comes with some challenges. But if we just look at that transition, does it link to what you have seen? And what has been the exciting parts of that? And what has been some of the challenging parts of that? If we start with you, Bruce.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what I would bring up first as we talk about these transitions and where the market is going is printing local is becoming more and more table stakes of what is expected. And again, I keep going back to sort of the digital natives and the younger folks, you know, on the call here as well. And it's like there's an expectation that we are going to basically be sustainable as much as we can, because we're using wood, we're using, you know, fuel to move things around, all those kind of things. So I think that is the exciting part, I think, about the whole print on demand side. The technology that is enabling that is actually the interesting story I was thinking about as you're mentioning that was that, you know, in the mid teens here in 2000s, I remember in 2015, I think, a lot of the work that was being printed for books was being done in China. Any volume was being done there. There wasn't a lot of technology being used there because labor was really cheap, right? And so what happened in 2015 was there was a law passed that they were going to double the wages of everybody in China, 20% per year over 5 years, right? All of a sudden, the printing companies in China were going to companies like Müller-Martini and Colbus and saying, I need to buy automation now because I can't just throw labor at it anymore. It's not working that way. And that was a big change because now it made sense for these big companies who had sort of tipped their foot in the water a little bit about automation, but hadn't really gone full bore into it, to be able to say, yeah, it's like, we understand that this on-demand model and shorter runs and microprocessing is the future. And I just think that that was a big change that I saw that moving into this business. Yeah.
Interesting when you say about the sustainability and a more sustainable local production solution, because when we got started here in Oslo, Norway, we tried to save costs wherever we could. So we let that HP Indigo machine run 24/7, and then people in Gelato at the time, we took our own bicycles and we personally handed it over to the customers in Oslo to save a couple of dollars on each delivery. So you spoke about automation, and that brings me into the discussion about software, because as we get more and more machines in each and every production hub and more products, you somehow need to manage that cost efficiently. And that, from what I have seen, it's not been that easy for the industry. Rick, you've been right in the epicenter, the hurricane of these changes. So from your perspective, what have you seen?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to tie it back to the previous two questions as well. So what has happened on a macro basis, right, is print has gone from the primary communication channel where it was the first thing that hit somebody. And most of us came out of the commercial space, and that generated long run. Today, it's not. It's the secondary channel. It is on top of the digital channel, which is almost always now the primary channel. So what does that require? Well, that requires that we're able to personalize and customize, and that requires we're able to accept orders automatically from a digital system. I've got to have a technology platform that integrates with my customer, whether that customer is an e-commerce company or a marketing company, or whether it's a packaging company, it doesn't matter. I need to be able to accept content en masse and deliver a product of one. It is not possible to scale an operation without having the technology that allows you to integrate with your customer up front, automatically send those to a press or some sort of output device, and then produce that product and track it throughout production. The traditional ways of having somebody wander around with a job ticket just don't work. So that technology and software is critical in making that shift. And without it, quite frankly, you can't scale. To Bruce's point, I can't put 1,000 books into the right packages without software assisted. The other thing that we talked about was the broadening of products and machines in production. It's really being driven by, when you think about running a production facility, managing your labor and your utilization. So if you're only in one print segment, the utilization and demand for that goes up and down wildly. As you expand products, that evens it out, so you can move your people between the two. Software makes it possible to use a few high-skilled people to set up the projects, and then hire lesser skilled people to do the actual assembly of the product. And without that, in today's labor market, it's very difficult to scale.
And what have you, if we go back 10 years, you had your vision about how this industry would change. You were right in the midst of it. And you had your hopes on the software that could support you and your company in this transition. If you compare with what you believed 10 years ago with what you've seen during these last 10 years, what has been the big challenges?
Here's what the biggest challenge was. When we started out, there was no software that was out there that would allow us to produce one-off products. I actually got interested in RPI, not because I thought it would be a great idea to go back to print. I've tried to escape the print industry multiple times. I came from an interior retail services company. But what I saw was the ability to customize hundreds of thousands of products a day through the software platform that they had started to develop. And it was a bit of a mess, but I went there to help clean it up. Quite frankly, to help personalization in a broad range of products, because mass customization was just happening at the time. Today, companies like Gelato, or Gelato in particular, has developed software that's off the shelf that would have saved me tens of millions of dollars over the year. So when people looked at RPI, I had a good friend who worked at Bill's company as well, Mr. Gates, who came and toured my business. Always thought, it's like, Rick, why are you in the print industry? Like, come on, come work for Microsoft for me. Why don't you come work for Amazon? And he came into my shop and he went, oh, you're actually a technology company that prints. So that sort of shift in mindset was A, critical at the time, but B, cost me millions and millions of dollars that today I don't have to spend because I can use Gelato.
Well, I have to give Seattle, Amazon, Starbucks, Microsoft. It's a pretty interesting track record. So
there's something in the water that creates world domination desire.
Yeah, exactly. Puget Sound. So on that note, if we go to Simon, I mean, you've also faced the same challenges in terms of connecting all the different machines, effectively producing all the products. One thing that I have seen from day one, that the world, this is my perspective, don't need more production hubs, really, because there are so many really progressive, good quality production hubs. But I never saw a software company, like a real software company, coming into the industry and just honing in on software, relaxing, leaning back and saying, these amazing production hubs, they will do the production. We don't have to do that. We need to build the software to connect them to, the world of printers, and then also the software individually in the production hub to manage A to Z effectively. Now, I'm very happy to say that we have signed an agreement with your company, ESP Colour in the UK, to implement GelatoConnect, which is our software, our workflow software. Can you speak a bit about, from your perspective, the last 5-10 years, and then what led you up to taking the decision to go with GelatoConnect?
Yeah, so my background when I traded energy and worked for Honda and lots of big companies like that was in finance and IT. So I'm very, very IT literate. And when I first came in the industry, the technology is rubbish, or was rubbish, to be brutally honest. Absolutely, the best of what we got was from EFI and Fastens. Today a 2-year-old could create that. So and I've got some bad experiences in the past as well, really bad experiences where I've spent 18 months in implementing software technology just to have to rip it out again, where I've been sold something that it didn't do what I was sold it was meant to do. So I think the industry literally throughout the world, whether it's the States, whether it's Europe, whether it's UK, has had really poor technology in print. And this has led to a lot of companies developing their own technology. So in terms of where we are today, in terms of Gelato, you're right. I don't see other technology companies as technology companies in the industry. Technology is something that's meant to make a process easier. In summary, it's meant to take away the administrative tasks and repetitive tasks and do that with technology in a real nutshell. And today, no one has achieved that. And I don't really know why, to be honest with you, but we are where we are. Gelato, in comparisons to the other companies, the speed of movement and the understanding and the willingness to engage. I think the willingness to engage is by far the greatest I've ever seen. And they have created something that will give us all, if we choose to embrace it, what we all kind of look for, what Rick probably needed a long time ago. And it's just, print companies are not very well, and this is maybe why the technology has been so bad. Print companies don't know what good technology looks like yet, and they haven't seen it. Yeah, they should probably give Henrik a call and find out what it does look like.
Well, first of all, thank you for that. But I would like.
I mean, I wouldn't have bought it, Henrik, if it wasn't good. Let's be brutally honest. I've already been scarred once, so I know what scarring looks like.
Yeah, we all want to avoid scar tissues. But coming back to what I wanted to say is, we're good at software, but I also think that if you want 1 + 1 to equal 4.5, or get the whole greater than the sum of the individual parts, what I have seen is that the industry has a tendency of wanting to do everything in-house. And the problem is, it's inherently very, very hard to try to be a software company, a production company, a distribution company, a procurement company. It's just really, really hard. And so I think that when we work together, and I'm so impressed with also what has happened from the machine vendors' perspective, the types of technologies they have brought to the market, coupled with how our production partners across the whole world, we have 140 in 31 countries now, how they embrace and operationalize these technologies with the software that we've built. So all of a sudden, you're in that situation where 1 + 1 equals 4.5. But we're starting to nearing the end here. But Rick and Bruce, when you think from a software workflow perspective, what is it that you have seen, and why do you think that Simon and now other production hubs around the world are seeing this 1 + 1 equals 4.5 when we, GelatoConnect, is working together with the machines across the planet?
Yeah, I can tell you I'll speak from a brand standpoint from my blurb.com experience, right? Back in the early days there, if I wanted to expand into Brazil or into Japan, I had to figure out who the printer was. I had to figure out how to connect. I had to figure out all that stuff. I had to do it myself. If I had GelatoConnect at that point, right, if I'm integrated with the network, all of a sudden I say, okay, I need somebody in Singapore. Who is it, right? That type of thing. And the products have already been created. They're already in the system, right? I mean, that's the great thing about it. I mean, it checks all the boxes we've been talking about here: sustainability, expandability, efficiency, margins, all those kind of things fall into that bucket at that point, because now I can do, as a brand, I can concentrate on managing my brand. I don't have to concentrate on worrying about having a print operations group that has to basically think about this every day of the week. So
thank you for that. And Rick?
And I'll go back to some macro trends, right? Because of the way the labor markets are now, when you think about running a business, print has gone from being a craft-based build-to-order to being a manufacturing process. And as you turn into a manufacturing process, that means that we can suddenly apply Industry 4.0 or automation in order to drive that. And you see it across the print industry, right? You see the increasing use of robotics. You see the increasing use, you mentioned the equipment manufacturers, the capability to integrate directly with the new equipment, with your software, and be able to track exactly what is that output device doing? What is that binding device doing? What is this doing, so that I can more efficiently run my company and do so with less people, is being driven throughout all the successful print manufacturers, just like any other manufacturing development group. So what does that require? That requires real professional software. And as a business owner, I don't want to build a software group internally in my company because that's pouring all of my profits back into a software company. That I'm not going to be able to sell that software to somebody else really on a mass scale, because that's not my business. So without somebody like Gelato, who is a proven software company, you essentially end up pouring all of your profits back into automation just to tread water.
Well, it's been a great talk, and thank you for doing this. To end on like a high note, and going back to my mother that cried, she's not crying any longer, by the way. But so what drives your excitement? Like, if I can start, I would say that I try to meet at least 2 customers every week. One maker, our production partners, one creator, the creators across the planet. And when I see the creator economy, the growth in the creator economy, how it's just going global, and how a single creator, let's say in Seattle, can reach billions of consumers all across the planet. And we can feed that local consumer in Paris with local production, local distribution overnight with one of our partners' facility, powered by our software. I mean, we can really, if you extrapolate that trend, I think we can really change. We're on the verge of changing the manufacturing industry. And coming back to why I have never been more excited is because when you marry these macro trends and you look at the technology and software and production capabilities coming to cities across the world, really, it's a super exciting time to be in digital printing. And I'd love to hear, a quick summary from you, starting with Simon.
Yeah. So what really, I do a coffee morning with my staff every couple of months. We rotate as directors, and at the moment, so we still have a litho factory, as I mentioned, and at the moment, the thing that is really getting me excited, is I'm starting to think about transitioning my litho factory completely, like incompleteness, for it not to be analog whatsoever anymore. So all I will have then is a super short run digital factory, and then a maybe not so short run digital factory. And I tell you the thing that I'm really looking forward to, I spend a lot of my time as an owner in print looking at data, and it's something that I get really excited about, and I like looking for trends. I'm looking forward to the time where I can see that Dave is running the binder at the speed that he should be running the binder, or Dave's not running the binder, but I can see the binder is running at the speed it needs to run at, just with a quick click, and not spending about 2 hours trying to analyze data and figure out what's going on. I may get my evenings back.
Yeah, thank you for that, Simon. I mean, we've spoken about it. You have 5 production facilities in the UK, and now we're bringing those into your phone so that you can monitor all the facilities in your phone whenever you want to. So that's part of working together and making 1 + 1 4.5. So thanks for that. And Bruce.
Yeah, I think when I think about my consulting clients that I work with in the printing business, the thing that really excites me is the big struggle that they've had over time, and I'm sure Simon can relate to this as well, is the ups and downs of the business and trying to deal, especially when you're in the consumer printing business. I'm seeing more and more aggregation of content and aggregators bringing work in that levels out those peaks and valleys a little bit. That's so huge for the marketplace. Saying that part of the problem is that temporary workers are so hard to find, if you can find them at all anymore. So companies want to keep a full staff as much as they can year round. The only way to do that is by leveling off those things, getting into different markets, not just being in a photo book market or a business products market, but looking at these other opportunities and figure out the aggregators are helping do that, right? They're bringing together the work and routing work to local printers. This is all a great time to be in the printing business, I think, but you've got to be You got to make contacts. You got to interact with your peers. I think about, Drupa is going to be huge this year because it's going to be the first time a lot of us have seen each other in a while. So it's like, that's the thing. Get to know other people in the printing business, get to know other people in the brand business, so you can really level off and make your business as efficient as possible.
Yeah, and I might as well take that opening and leverage it. So if you are at Drupa, if you listen to this and will be at Drupa, Gelato will have a quite significant booth there in Hall 9 next to Landa. And we're fortunate enough also to have both Bruce, Rick, and Simon standing there together with us representing Gelato. So if you want to hear Bruce play his guitar, you can come to the Gelato booth. He has many things he's good at, photography, printing, and playing the guitar. So Rick, what about you? Like, what makes you excited about this situation we stand before now?
I'll just say Bruce is quite the guitar player, so I'd come to the booth just for that, quite frankly. So what makes me very excited?
Bruce.
I can do this.
Well, let's move on.
What makes me excited, quite frankly, is I love this industry. I mentioned earlier I tried to get out of it many times. At the end of the day, I love this industry, and gets me very excited. The transformation from analog to digital, from mass to personalization, is a very difficult and challenging transition. And I am very passionate about helping business leaders make that transformation, both culturally in their cultures that they build with their people, because that's key and foremost, but also with their technologies, and doing that in a way that will get this industry to carbon neutral. Because we have to get this industry to a carbon neutral space, and it is very possible to do. It requires some just basic steps to move in that direction. So that keeps me very excited every morning, gets me up early, and has me traveling around the world when I need to.
Yeah, what a great ending. Thank you so much. And I'll end with saying what I love, which is working with you. And I don't say that lightly or in a cheesy way, because I think that all three of you and the knowledge you represent and the background you have is just an example of the whole being greater than the sum of the individual parts. So I want to thank you for participating in this chat, and then also welcome everyone to the booth in Hall 9 at Drupa. And we hope to see you there. So take care, everyone, and thank you for listening in.